up, and welcome back to the Critics Initiative. I'm Dave from Interpreting the Stars, and this time we're starting yet another franchise in this massive, never-ending universe of superhero films, with the first one on the Captain America side. It's Captain America, the First Avenger. Captain America, the First Avenger focuses on wimpy Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, when he is injected with super serum that transforms him into the hero that we all know and love, Captain America. During the height of World War II, he takes it upon himself to head up against the evil organization Hydra and its evil master, Red Skull. Joining me in today's review is Mike from Did You See That, which is his new channel name. 1, I love the name change, and 2, I'm digging the new intro as well. You outdid yourself, sir. Before we start this review, I did want to let y'all know that I left a link to his channel in my description box down below for you all to check out everything that he has to offer. Dude is fantastic, and we'll be hearing his thoughts on Captain America, the First Avenger in just a hot second. But first, some of my positives. This is such a great movie, and one that I've had a history of not liking, actually. For me, it's definitely been a journey, and my tastes have changed throughout the years. A couple of reasons why I initially didn't like it at all came down to expectations for the MCU and my ability to relate to what's going on. So I didn't think a World War II movie really fit what we've seen up to that point. You know, I wanted to see Captain America in modern day, and I didn't really get that. Another problem that I always had with the film was scrawny Chris Evans. Dude has always looked great shirtless no matter what, you know? Always been tall, and if not muscular, at least toned, so to see him look like a 12-year-old boy is silly. To a degree, I still don't buy into that look, but throughout the years, I've come to accept it a little bit more because it really is only in the beginning. And as far as the war setting, again, it doesn't bother me so much anymore because we know where the story goes from here. There's so much more to see from Captain America, and because I can appreciate that a little bit more, I now can enjoy it a little bit more too. See more of the little things that make this film so special. For instance, just how dirty and grimy Captain America looks. You know, he looks like he's been through the wages of war. Later films, especially Avengers 1, he's simply too shiny and clean cut, like he's essentially made of plastic or something. But here, he is very down to earth and real. And Hugo Weaving as the villain, gotta say, it's probably one of the best villains of at least Phase 1. I mean, I definitely like him more than Loki, and I know that's probably sacrilege, but it's true. And in terms of ethical characters, there's a reason why Captain America is often referred to as a Boy Scout, and later determined to be worthy enough to wield Mjolnir, because he's worthy. He's somebody that would die for a cause any day of the week, and I find that absolutely admirable. As for some other kind of obscure positives, this is the only Captain America film to sort of remind me of those really corny, cringy, all but forgotten Captain America movies from the 90s, particularly because of his motorcycle that he rides in this film. He rides in later films as well, but this is the only one that really stood out to me in that way. Plus, I think Red Skull is also in those films as well. It's a positive because it kind of brings me back in a sort of nostalgic way. Anyway, before I go on, let's hear what Mike from Did You See That had to say about Captain America, the First Avenger.
Dave and everyone over at Untitled Stars, what's going on? I'm Mike, and Dave, my man, firstly I just got to give a big thank you to you, simply for allowing me to be a part of this Critics Initiative. And today, I'm joining Dave in this initiative to talk about one of my favourite movies in the MCU period, and that is Captain America, the First Avenger. It actually came out 10 years ago, which is just nuts. It's just crazy it's been that long, because this film really doesn't feel like it's been 10 years, and just the character development since that point of Steve Rogers up until now. So I'm sure by now Dave's probably talked about the plot of Captain America, the First Avenger. So with that in mind, let me just jump straight to my positives and my experience of seeing Captain America for the first time. So it wasn't actually in the cinema, it was actually at home, and I believe it was kind of on the premiere TV channel at the time, and it was kind of shown as like the weekly premiere, like this brand new movie. So I was like, alright, cool. I wasn't really big into superhero movies back then. I didn't really get into, for example, like say the Dark Knight trilogy until later on in time, and that's kind of when I fully got engrossed in superhero movies in general, DC and Marvel. So when I actually watched this movie, I really loved this film, and that love and passion hasn't changed. One thing that I can really relate to in terms of Steve Rogers, played by the awesome Chris Evans, which to be honest is just utterly perfect casting, and I'm so glad he got a second choice after originally being the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies, which by the way I do like, just to get that on record. But what I will say about Chris Evans, and one thing that I can really relate to in this movie, is the bullying subject that is touched on, because I'm sure in a lot of people's lives, including mine, there was definitely some form of bullying at one point or another, especially as Chris Evans stars as this kind of like wimpy little kid in the army military, and obviously a lot of bigger people around that base camp are kind of like, wow, well, who's this little guy? He's not going to do anything in a war. Like, what can this guy truly do? And it's kind of like judging the book by its cover. It kind of highlighted a lot about being yourself, but also you can become better should you want to. And obviously that does happen to Steve Rogers throughout this when he gets injected with that super serum, and of course turns into this big muscular kind of hunk as such. Yeah, Chris Evans in this movie is truly phenomenal. And one thing I actually really respect about that transition piece is the fact that Chris Evans really owns, whether he's like little skinny wimp or he's kind of this big muscular kind of standing up tall for himself kind of person. And the chemistry that he has with, of course, Peggy Carter is just awesome. And also a big praise I've got to give is to Hugo Weaving, who I really think is really underrated as Red Skull. Of course, it's set kind of back in time before obviously Captain America gets frozen and Steve Rogers. But one thing I really like is that kind of Nazi Germany theme, because it's really always intrigued me. And I love how they kind of incorporated this war theme throughout this Captain America film in general. I really felt like it played to its strengths. And if you look at all the other MCU films that's been after this first Avenger movie, there's been kind of none that's involved kind of like a military war. And the fact that I incorporated this into kind of a superhero movie, I just got to give massive props to Marvel firstly, because truly underrated, I generally believe this film is. I don't think it kind of gets enough praise for what it actually is. And what you tend to find is, although some of the newer MCU installments, say like Ragnarok or Infinity War, Endgame, etc. Yes, they're fantastic movies. Yes, they're absolutely big blockbuster movies. But one thing that I can really respect about Captain America, the first Avenger, is this movie is more grounded in terms of just kind of its realism in terms of the military-based style things. Yes, of course, no one's going to get frozen for 70 years. Yeah, definitely not. But in terms of kind of the just military side of things, yeah, just huge respect for that. And again, Red Skull is highly underrated, and Hugo Weaving performs a great role as Red Skull. I truly believe he's a great villain. And this movie, I could honestly rewatch time and time again. And Chris Evans in this role knocks it out of the park. And his relationship with Sebastian Stan, with, of course, Bucky Barnes, is just something kind of to behold, because there hasn't really been a solid foundation relationship like that in kind of the MCU. In terms of my negatives, yeah, I guess little bits apart of this movie does kind of not withstand now, like some of the CG kind of effect. You can kind of tell it was in that kind of Marvel early stages of producing these movies, and not as big budget set aside for this movie, and it kind of paid off completely. There's definitely parts of it where it is a little bit outdated, again, like the CG, and I guess at odd times there's one or two little slow moments, but for me, again, it's my favourite movie. And if you can see behind me, at least bring it forward here, yeah, I've got the Captain America Pop Funko, but Captain America is my absolute favourite, and he forever will be. So Dave, I'm going to hand it back over to you, my man, and your remaining thoughts on Captain America, the first Avenger. And again, thank you so much for having me on the Critics Initiative, and I can't wait to talk about the rest of the Captain America installments, because man, you've chosen my favourite superhero.
Thank you, Mike, for joining me in today's review. I definitely appreciate it. Again, to everybody watching, make sure that you head over to his channel and check out everything that he does. Send him some love and tell him that I sent you. Yeah, man, you and I definitely, again, agree on another film. What's funny is, back in the day, I would have absolutely scoffed at you for saying this is one of your favorite MCU films. I still wouldn't really call it one of my favorites, but I definitely very much enjoy it, more so than I ever have in the past. So to see us agree again is always a blast. If I had to give this any negative, it would just be the skinny Steve Rogers thing, which, again, it technically looks great. It takes me out, because I don't buy into the idea that that's actually Chris Evans. I know Chris Evans. I know what he looks like. Even in movies like Not Another Teen Movie, way earlier on in his career. his body was still nothing like this. Another negative comes down to the MCU actually, because as a whole, you do see the MCU as modern day, as all these heroes come together over and over again. More often than not, it takes place now. And so it doesn't fully feel like MCU yet. It does by the very tail end of the film, but that's not a majority of the movie. So a couple of movies in the first phase aren't fully there yet as MCU, but obviously there's time. Technically, this movie should have come out before Iron Man, chronologically speaking, but, whatever. Let's go ahead and break down my final score from an unbiased perspective. I don't know, I can't really find much to complain about here. It really is made pretty well from all fronts. Great performances, great assortment of characters and their individual importance into what's going on, great narrative with a meaningful story, good action, impressive visuals and cinematography. Honestly, I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely up there. This score is 94%. My bias score is a little bit lower because I don't really think it feels like the MCU, at least not fully yet, and some areas here and there I think could have been improved, but it's still a solid film overall. This bias score is 86%, and when we combine those two scores together, we come to the final rating of 90%, 90 out of 100 possible stars, or an A letter grade. Guys, what do you think about Captain America, the First Avenger? Is it as good as we think it is? Do you think it has improved over the years? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments down below. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1.